Namaste, Shekhar Purna here. Today, subject, sound pattern-induced Tandava Shiva and mobile phones. Contextually, this selected verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha, sangasteshu pajayate. Sangat samjayate kamaha, kamat krodho bhijayate. Krodhat bhavati sammohaha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha. Smriti bhramshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. These two verses are among the most famous verses of the Bhagavad Gita, which very clearly illustrate the descending sequence of the human mind. A young boy, studying in the 7th standard, enters the kitchen holding a large spoon in his right hand and starts banging it against the granite countertop where the cooking stove is placed. Hearing the harsh grating noise, the mother, who was sitting on a chair opposite the computer desk looking at her mobile phone, screamed irritably, "Won't you stop, or do I need to come and beat you?" Just as harshly, the father, lying on a bed in the room, shouted at the son. Though the son felt displeased by the harsh cry, he did not react at all. The grandfather was lying in another room, preparing a clip to be posted on his YouTube channel. Here, one thing must be said. Although noise causes annoyance, it possesses an immense power hidden within its very harshness that draws the human mind and absorbs it entirely into itself. Even when sound becomes music, it holds the same power, and thus humans are submissive to sound. As Ravana wrote in his Shiva Tandava Stotra, even that Shiva is Dhvani Krama Pravartita Prachanda Tandava Shiva. You, I, and everyone else must inevitably become engrossed in sound. There is no other way. If sound were merely of a superficial nature, we would perhaps just get engrossed. Now for me to receive this, whether what I am going to say is scientific or based on reason, I do not have complete information. It is a strong belief, especially among believers, that the drum beat, the Damaru sound in Shiva Tandava is an invitation to war and an invitation to destruction. Moreover, we have seen in Kannada and Hollywood movies how the power of sound waves is amplified through a telephone receiver to depict the death scenario of the receiver, bleeding from the ears. Perhaps this is what elders have categorized as being spellbound or mantramugdha. From small-sized to massive-sized screens, television, mobile phones, laptops, computers, and many such devices are available in the market. The alluring venom wheel of YouTube is spinning round and round. Entire communities, without any discretion, are purchasing them by taking on loans and debts. While mobile phones can be used for pleasantries, communication, brief conversations, or even a little entertainment for some time, it is an unquestionable fact that when a mobile phone becomes an addiction, children fall ill. Some schools have indeed placed restrictions on mobile phone usage during class hours. But that is alone not enough. Parents and guardians do not necessarily need to completely ban mobile phone usage, but they must remain vigilant against unregulated usage. The government's education department, health department, and legal department need to find the heart to frame certain regulations. If a casual or dismissive response like, "Did we ever tell you to use mobile phones?" comes from any government department or political party, it would be no surprise. One can easily expect such a reaction. Therefore, below, I have gathered and presented the recommendations issued by the World Health Organization and the Indian Academy of Pediatrics. Now, I am coming to the main subject. Earlier, I mentioned both the person engrossed in a mobile conversation and the boy making noise with the spoon in the kitchen. There is plenty of information available showing that mobile phones are not just for communication, but are also destructive. This concerning information does not come from mere gossip. The World Health Organization and the Pediatric Association, Indian Pediatric Association, have made several recommendations regarding mobile phone usage according to children's age groups. Reviewing available scientific evidence on the impact of screen-based media use and excessive screen time on children's health and formulating recommendations to limit screen time and promote digital well-being among infants, children, and adolescents in India. Process. The expert committee formed by the Indian Academy of Pediatrics included various experts from both the government and private sectors. The committee comprehensively reviewed available research literature and current guidelines. A detailed review report prepared in advance was sent to the members. a one-day national online consultation meeting was held on March 26, 2021, and extensive discussions took place regarding the draft guidelines. Subsequently, the committee's consensus review and recommendations were sent to all members and the final guidelines were approved. Conclusions. Exposure to screen-based media at a very early age among Indian children and spending more than 1 to 2 hours of screen time per day is widespread. In this context, the committee has made the following recommendations. For children under 2 years of age, all types of screen use should be completely avoided. For children aged 24 to 59 months, a maximum of 1 hour of screen time per day should be permitted only with parental supervision. For children aged 5 to 10 years, less than 2 hours of screen time per day should be permitted. Screen time should under no circumstances replace essential outdoor physical activities for children, adequate sleep, communication with family and friends, education and skill development activities. Families should create an environment filled with love, security, support, and happiness for children at home. Additionally, it must be ensured that the digital content watched by children is educational, age-appropriate, and non-violent. Families, schools, and pediatricians should cultivate the practice of recording screen time and digital well-being as part of regular health assessments for children. If symptoms of cyberbullying or digital media addiction appear, they should be identified early and expert advice and treatment should be sought if necessary. My mind and intellect, kept in an awakened state, urge me to fall at the feet of the mother, father, and child mentioned above to express my gratitude. There is a belief that elders falling at the feet of juniors causes a decrease in the lifespan of juniors. Therefore, in this written form at least, I bow down and dedicate this discourse to them. Let us meet in the next discourse. Shekhar Purna.
A 7th grade boy is standing in the middle of a family kitchen and he's gripping this heavy metal spoon. And he brings it down hard against the granite stovetop. Bang! It's over and over again.
Oh, wow. Just absolute chaos.
Exactly. The noise is deafening. And just a few feet away, sitting at a computer table, is his mother. But she isn't looking at him.
She's totally tuned out.
Right. She isn't looking at the computer either. She is staring intently at the glowing screen of her mobile phone.
Like she's in a trance.
Yeah, exactly. And the physical noise of that spoon finally shatters this digital trance she's in, and she just snaps. I mean, she screams at him, threatening to hit him if he doesn't stop.
It's a terrifyingly perfect tableau of modern domestic life, isn't it?
It really is.
Just this snapshot of complete cognitive and social collapse playing out right next to the microwave.
Well, and that incredibly jarring scene is the anchor for our deep dive today. I'd like to welcome you, the listener, to our exploration of a brilliant, honestly almost unclassifiable essay from July of 2026 by Shekhar Purna.
Right. It's titled Sound-Driven Tandava Shiva and Mobile.
Yes. And the mission for our deep dive today is to explore this single piece of writing that somehow draws a straight, logical line from ancient Hindu philosophy to the raw acoustic mythology of sound, straight through to the modern epidemic of screen addiction.
And it ultimately lands on some incredibly strict pediatric medical triage.
Which is wild. So what makes this exploration so vital for you listening right now is that it completely flips the script on how we view our devices.
Yeah, it stops treating screen addiction as just some modern technological glitch. Instead, it diagnoses it as a fundamental exploitation of ancient human architecture.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand why that mother in the kitchen is so enraged by the real world, we actually have to rewind, like, thousands of years.
We do. We have to go way back.
Right. The essay grounds this entire modern crisis in the Bhagavad Gita, specifically verses 2.62 and 2.63.
Right, which outlines this incredibly precise, step-by-step collapse of the human mind.
Yeah, but before we get into the steps, we really need to clarify the trigger. The Gita says this entire downfall starts by continuously thinking about sense objects.
Right.
So what exactly qualifies as a sense object here?
Well, a sense object is essentially anything in the material world that our senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, can lock onto and consume.
Okay, so like a beautiful painting.
Exactly. A beautiful painting is a sense object, a delicious meal, a physical book. But the real danger lies in the dwell time.
The dwell time.
Yeah. The Gita describes a terrifyingly specific psychological cascade. When a person continuously dwells on a sense object, a profound attachment forms.
Right, the mind becomes sticky.
Exactly, the mind gets stuck. And that attachment inevitably breeds desire. You don't just want to look at the object anymore. You want to consume it, own it, experience it endlessly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But here is the critical pivot, right?
Yeah.
The material world is finite. It will inevitably frustrate that desire. You will be denied at some point.
Right, reality gets in the way.
Exactly. And when unfulfilled desire hits reality, it combusts into anger.
And from anger, the collapse just accelerates.
Oh, it goes into total freefall.
Yeah.
The Gia states that anger leads directly to delusion, which is a complete loss of perspective.
Wow.
And then that delusion causes a loss of memory. You literally forget who you are, what your values are, your broader context in the world.
Which is terrifying.
It really is. And this loss of memory destroys your intellect and your wisdom. And finally, with the intellect destroyed, it results in the ultimate downfall of man.
Just a total psychological and spiritual collapse, triggered just by staring too long at a shiny object.
Exactly.
Which is where I want to introduce a slightly different way to look at this for our listener. We always hear these cliched metaphors about falling down toxic rabbit holes online.
Oh, sure, constantly.
But reading that ancient chain of events, attachment, desire, anger, delusion, collapse, it doesn't feel like falling down a hole.
No, it doesn't.
It feels like someone mapped out the vulnerabilities in the human operating system millennia ago, and modern tech companies just built the ultimate algorithmic slot machine to exploit it. I mean, the smartphone is the ultimate sense object because it promises infinite fulfillment of desire.
That is a phenomenal way to frame it. The tech industry didn't invent this cognitive domino effect. They just engineered a device that artificially bypasses the friction of the physical world.
Right, they removed the brakes.
Think about it. If you desire a physical object, you have to go get it. There's time to cool off, you know.
You have to walk to the store or whatever.
Right. But the screen offers zero friction. It delivers the dopamine instantly. And when it doesn't, like when a video buffers or someone argues with you online or reality interrupts you.
The anger is instantaneous.
Yes. It's explosive because you've been conditioned to expect frictionless satisfaction.
Which brings us right back to that incredibly loud kitchen. Because the author uses that modern household to show us exactly what the downfall of man looks like when you put it in a 4-bedroom house.
Yeah, let's look at the rest of that family. Because we have the boy banging the spoon and the mother screaming at him from her phone trance. But the shockwaves go further.
Oh yeah, it gets worse.
In the next room, the father is lying on a bed. He's also staring at his mobile phone. He hears the harsh yelling, and it annoys him.
But he doesn't do anything.
Exactly. His reaction is complete passivity. He doesn't intervene. He doesn't parent. He doesn't comfort his wife or discipline his son. He is paralyzed by his scream.
And in a third room, completely isolated from all of this, the grandfather is busy editing a video for his own YouTube channel.
Right. Everyone is isolated.
When I first read this, I actually had to ask myself, is this a judgment? Is this family being presented as villains? Because on the surface, it reads like a really harsh critique of terrible parenting.
Well, it's not a judgment of their character, though. It's a diagnosis of their condition.
A condition, okay.
Yeah, they are absolutely the victims of the algorithmic slot machine you just described. What's fascinating here is the brutal irony of their situation.
How?
Well, through these glowing rectangles, every single adult in that house is supposedly connected to the sum total of human knowledge, right? And billions of people across the globe.
Right.
Yet, they are fundamentally isolated. They are actively ignoring the living, breathing humans sitting just 3 feet away from them.
The physical world has literally become an annoyance. When reality, the loud banging of that spoon forces its way into their digital delusion, their immediate response isn't curiosity or concern.
No, it's hostility.
Right, it's pure hostility. They deeply resent the physical world for demanding their attention.
And that forces us to look really closely at the weapon that 7th grade boy is using to break that trance.
The spoon.
Well, yes, but think about what he's doing with it. He isn't waving his hands. He isn't flashing lights. He is using sound.
The banging spoon. It's not just a messy detail. It's the mechanical hinge of this whole exploration. So why is sound the only thing that shatters the spell?
Because of the unique biological or physical nature of hearing, you can close your eyes to avoid a scream, right?
Sure.
You can turn your head, but you cannot close your ears. Sound waves are literally physical pressure moving through the air and physically touching the mechanisms inside your head.
It's invasive.
Exactly. It commands human attention without asking for permission.
And the essay leans heavily into this, suggesting that humans are inherently subservient to sound. It brings in this incredibly potent mythological reference, Ravana's Shiva Tandava Stotram.
Right.
Specifically, this concept of Vani Krama Pravartita Prachanda Tandava Shiva.
Yes, which roughly translates to Shiva's fierce cosmic dance being entirely driven by the sequence of sound. The rhythm literally commands the deity.
The sound of Shiva's drum, the Damaru.
Exactly.
The devout believe its sheer acoustic power is an absolute invitation to war, like a catalyst for destruction.
And the essay even uses cinema to show how deeply this fear of sound is ingrained in our psyche.
Right, the movie references.
Yeah, referencing Hollywood and Canada movies where phone receivers amplify sound waves so violently that they cause literal death, like blood pouring from the ears of the listener. It uses this phrase, mantra mughate, meaning to be completely mesmerized or hypnotized by the sound.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, and where I actually have to challenge this premise a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I found myself pushing back hard on this incredibly dark, apocalyptic framing of sound, because isn't music essentially doing the exact same thing?
That's a good point.
I mean, a beautiful symphony or a lullaby commands your attention just as much as a harsh drum beat. It physically alters your heart rate. So why hyper-focus on the destructive, hypnotic aspect? Isn't sound also our greatest source of comfort?
I'm really glad you brought that up because you are entirely correct about music.
Yeah.
But that is exactly the vulnerability being highlighted here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if sound has the power to uplift the human spirit to transcendence, it possesses the equal and opposite power to completely hijack the nervous system. The focus on destruction and hypnosis isn't to say sound is inherently evil.
Right.
It's to illustrate the terrifying scale of our vulnerability.
Meaning, if our senses are this deeply susceptible to a physical frequency,
Exactly. If a rhythm can command a god to dance in mythology, or a lullaby can put a child to sleep, imagine how incredibly defenseless the human mind is against a digital device engineered by thousands of behavioral psychologists.
just constantly manipulating our visual and auditory inputs.
Yes. The boy's banging spoon wasn't just an annoyance, it was an acoustic sledgehammer. It was physical, analog reality fighting back, violently breaking the engineered digital spell that had hypnotized his mother.
Which transitions us from the acoustic spell perfectly into the digital one. The essay moves from the raw power of sound into a blistering critique of the modern device market. You know, TVs, mobiles, laptops.
The whole ecosystem.
Right. It describes this entire ecosystem as a spinning YouTube poison wheel.
It's a very vivid way to describe the mechanism of infinite scrolling. I mean, a wheel has no beginning and no end.
It just keeps going.
Yeah, it just continuously offers the next hit, constantly exploiting that Gita loop of attachment and desire we talked about.
But the societal critique goes beyond just wasting time. It highlights a massive collective delusion. People are abandoning basic financial and logical discretion, blindly going into massive debt just to buy the devices that power the poison wheel.
It's everywhere.
It starts innocently enough, right? A tool for basic communication, maybe a quick recipe or a short video.
Sure, utility.
But because of the way it exploits our cognitive architecture, it rapidly spirals into a full-blown obsession, an obsession that is provably making children physically and psychologically sick.
And this raises a really important question. When a consumer product is making a population sick, who steps in? Historically, we look to institutions.
Right, but the essay is profoundly cynical about that. It predicts that if you look to the government or the education departments and the health ministries for a rescue, you're just going to get a dismissive shrug.
Just total apathy.
Yeah. The anticipated response from the authorities is simply, did we ask you to use mobiles?
Which is just chilling.
So, what does this all mean? We often hear tech companies compared to bartenders who just serve the drinks and claim no liability when you get sick.
I've heard that analogy a lot.
But frankly, that analogy feels way too weak for what's actually happening here. It's more like living in a city where the municipal water supply is knowingly spiked with a highly addictive hallucinogen.
Wow, yeah.
And when the children start suffering neurological issues, the government just points at the faucet and says, well, no one forced you to turn on the tap. You could have dug a well.
That's spot on.
The infrastructure of addiction is systemic, the damage is measurable, but the institutions claim absolutely zero liability.
That is precisely the chilling reality we're left with. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals a terrifying void in societal protection.
Total void.
Because institutional regulation isn't coming. The realization hits hard here. The entire burden of stopping that ancient domino effect, the descent into delusion and loss of intellect, it falls entirely on the parents.
The parents, the families.
And the medical community on the front lines.
The cavalry isn't coming.
No, absolutely not. You have to establish the triage protocol yourself.
And thankfully, the deep dive doesn't just leave us drowning in that despair. Since the government is apathetic, the essay turns to the concrete, actionable solutions provided by the medical community.
This is the practical part.
Right. It outlines the very specific guidelines established by the World Health Organization and the Indian Academy of Pediatrics, the IAP.
And it's really important to understand the weight behind these guidelines. They are not casual lifestyle tips you read in a magazine.
No, not at all.
The text specifically highlights a massive one-day national online consultation from March 26, 2021.
Right.
This was a rigorous gathering of government and private sector medical experts reviewing all available neurobiological data to forge a hard consensus on digital wellness.
And they are treating screen time not as a habit, but as a pathogen. The age limits they agreed upon are incredibly strict.
Very strict.
Let's walk through the mechanics of this protocol for you listening. For children under 2 years old, the recommendation is 0 screen time. Absolute 0.
Nothing.
Then, for kids aged 2 to under 5, the absolute maximum is 1 hour a day, and it requires active parent supervision.
Right.
And for ages 5 to 10, it's strictly less than 2 hours a day.
Those numbers often shock modern parents.
I was absolutely astonished by the starkness of that 0 screen time for under 2 rule. I mean, you look around society today, and you constantly see toddlers in strollers or at restaurant tables practically fused to an iPad while their parents eat or shop.
It's everywhere.
It has become the default modern pacifier. But the medical consensus isn't saying, well, try to minimize it. They're saying 0.
Absolute 0.
Why is the medical community treating a screen like it's a toxic substance for a toddler? What is actually happening in the brain?
Well, it comes down to neuroplasticity and the fundamental mechanics of how a human brain maps reality. In the first 2 years of life, a child's brain is rapidly building neural pathways based on 3D spatial interactions, physical touch, eye contact, and real-world cause and effect.
So tangible things.
Exactly. A 2D glowing screen completely short-circuits that development. It provides hyperstimulating visual and auditory input without any of the physical, spatial context the brain actually needs to understand reality.
Oh, I see.
You are introducing the ultimate frictionless sense object to a brain that hasn't even learned how to process the friction of the real world yet. It actively disrupts emotional regulation and cognitive development.
So it's not just bad for their eyes, it is fundamentally rewiring their operating system in a way that aligns perfectly with the Gita's warning about the loss of intellect.
Exactly. And that's why the medical guidelines go far beyond just a daily stopwatch. There are holistic environmental rules.
Right, the broader context.
The consensus mandates that screen time must never replace physical activity. It cannot cut into a child's sleep architecture.
Which is huge.
Yeah, and it must never substitute for direct family communication or the development of tangible, real-world skills.
And if they are engaged with the screen, the content is heavily regulated by these guidelines. It must be educational, it must be nonviolent. But perhaps the most crucial guideline is environmental. The home itself must be a loving, secure environment.
Because a secure, engaging physical home is the only effective defense against the temptation of digital escapism.
Right.
If the physical world is cold, isolating, or stressful, the glowing screen becomes an irresistible refuge.
The consensus also mandates a team approach. Parents, schools, and pediatricians are formally instructed to actively monitor children for signs of cyberbullying and media addiction, treating it as a critical health metric.
Just like any other disease.
Yes, and if symptoms of addiction appear, they urge early expert intervention.
When you look at these guidelines in totality, they are the modern clinical translation of ancient spiritual wisdom.
They really are.
The Bhagavad Gita warned that unchecked attachment to a sense object destroys the intellect and causes the downfall of man. Thousands of years later, global pediatricians are standing up and saying, limit exposure to this specific digital sense object, or it will permanently damage the neurodevelopment and mental health of our children.
It's wild.
It's the exact same warning, just translated from Sanskrit philosophy into modern pediatric neurology.
It is incredibly profound to see those two worlds locked together so perfectly, which brings us to the author's conclusion. After walking us through this massive landscape, the philosophical downfall of man, the terrifying acoustic power of sound, the digital poison wheel, and the strict triage protocols of global doctors,
Shekhar Purna ends his essay with a brilliantly human, somewhat humorous expression of gratitude.
he really pulls the camera back to that chaotic kitchen. He writes that he is intensely, genuinely grateful to that noisy seventh grader banging the heavy spoon on the granite.
Yeah.
He's grateful to the mother for yelling, and he is even grateful to the completely silent, passive father avoiding reality on his bed.
Because without that exact sequence of dysfunction, his mind wouldn't have been jolted awake.
Right.
They inspired this entire realization. He actually knows that he deeply wishes he could bow to them in profound gratitude, to literally touch their feet in thanks.
But he holds back because of a very specific cultural tradition.
He does, yeah.
He explains that because of a traditional belief that an elder bowing to a junior actually reduces the junior's lifespan, he decides he shouldn't do it.
Right, he can't risk it.
Exactly. So instead of a physical bow, he dedicates this entire written discourse to them. The essay itself is his gesture of gratitude.
It's a striking reminder that clarity and wisdom don't always come from peaceful meditation. Sometimes they are violently birthed from the most frustrating, noisy, messy disruptions of our daily domestic lives.
And that brings the lens right back to you listening to this deep dive right now. When you evaluate your own household, your own daily routines, and your own attention, who are you in that kitchen tableau?
That's the real question.
Are you the mother, deeply irritated that the physical world is interrupting your scrolling? Are you the passive father, avoiding the friction of reality entirely while safely bathed in the glow of a screen? Or are you the one, maybe clumsily, maybe loudly, trying to break the trance?
It forces us to confront how much of our own intellect we've already surrendered to the sense objects in our pockets.
Exactly. And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over today, something that builds on this entire conversation.
Okay.
We've established how perfectly engineered these devices are to trap us and how institutions aren't coming to save us. If that boy's chaotic physical banging on the stove was the catalyst that shattered the spell and woke the author up, what is the banging spoon in our own lives?
That's a powerful thought.
Given how flawlessly the algorithm hacks our ancient vulnerabilities, can we really rely on pure internal willpower to just put the phone down? Or do we actually need to start intentionally engineering moments of physical disruption?
We might have to.
Do we need to purposely design loud, messy, demanding analog reality into our homes to constantly shock our nervous systems out of the digital trance? Because if we don't build our own banging spoons, the poison wheel just keeps spinning.